Gabby and I are excited to be here to tell you why we are supporting Kamala Harris to be the next United States Senator from the great state of California. In January of 2013, just weeks after the tragedy at the Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown, Connecticut, that Gabby and I founded our organization called Americans for Responsible Solutions. We took that step together because we decided to use our second chance at service to do something about the gun violence that is tearing so many of our communities apart. And as we saw in the wake of the tragedy at the Sandy Hook Elementary School, and in the wake of the tragedy at the Pulse nightclub in Orlando, and after so many other tragedies, too many of our elected leaders are in the grip of the gun lobby. And for too long, the small, vocal minority controlled by the Washington gun lobby have had a very outsized influence in our nation's gun laws. And it's time for that to change. So this election, Gabby and I are working to ignite the vocal majority of Americans who want their lawmakers in Washington to act to keep guns out of the wrong hands and save lives, and who now more than ever are refusing to be silent on this, and who are ready to vote this November to prevent gun violence. And we're here to tell you today that Kamala Harris is a champion for the vocal majority, and that's why Gabby and I and our organization, Americans for Responsible Solutions, PAC, are endorsing her for the United States Senate. Throughout her career in public service, Kamala has been a tireless and fearless voice for action that saves lives from gun violence. And as a prosecutor and as California's Attorney General, Kamala has seen the toll of our national gun violence crisis firsthand. And she's taken on the gun lobby at every step. She's helped pass legislation to close loopholes in California's background check laws, legislation that we all know have helped keep guns out of the hands of domestic abusers and felons. So we know Kamala will be a strong voice in the United States Senate for responsible steps that prevent gun tragedies and save lives. We need more leaders in the United States Senate, like your Attorney General, and leaders in the White House like Hillary Clinton. Leaders who will not only stand up to the Washington gun lobby, but have a record on this and a plan to do it. And a plan to stand with the vocal majority of Americans who support common sense change to make our families safer from gun violence. So Gabby and I today want to ask your help. We need you all, and anybody watching this today, to commit to voting only for candidates like Kamala and like Hillary, leaders who are committed to taking on the gun lobby, and leaders who are committed to responsible change once they're elected. We need you to make phone calls and knock on doors for them to make sure they're elected this November. And then we need all of you to go out and vote and get your friends to vote, as long as they're voting for the right person. So now I want to introduce you to someone who has worked really hard so she could be here to speak to all of you today. Someone who is using her second chance at service to make communities safer places to live. Someone who has also taught me each and every day to deny the acceptance of failure. And someone who, like Kamala Harris, knows how to get things done. My wife, Congresswoman Gabby Giffords.
Stopping gun violence takes courage. the courage to do what's right, the courage of new ideas. I've seen great courage when my life was on the line. Now is the time to come together, be responsible. Democrats, Republicans, everyone. We must never stop fighting. Fight, fight, fight. Be bold, be courageous. The nation's counting on you. Thank you.
We are in the presence of real, true, living heroes. Like, let's take this in for a moment. These two, Gabby and Mark, are true heroes, true American heroes. They each dedicated their lives to service in the United States Congress and the United States Navy, and have now been on a path for years, selflessly, giving us the courage to fight for our ideals. And as much as we honor them, as much as we praise them, let's be clear, not every room they walk into is a room like this. They are traveling this country, meeting with people, many of whom are opposed to common sense gun laws, many of whom are afraid of the NRA. And yet these two are so courageous, and in spite of the odds against them, they keep fighting and fighting and fighting for the ideals of our country. And that's what makes them true patriots. True patriots. You know, some people would say when you're critical of what's not working in the country, then that invites a question about one's love of country. Well, I reject that notion. I say there are two definitions of what it means to be a patriot. The definition that suggests you defend your country whatever it does, and then the kind of patriots that we have here today, who will fight each and every day for the ideals of our country. And let's think about those ideals in this respect. It is true to our ideals to say we will fight for justice. We will fight for a system that is fair. It is true to our ideals to say that when we see a false choice, we will reject it. So on the topic of reasonable gun safety laws, the false choice that is being proffered everywhere is the choice that suggests you're either in favor of the Second Amendment or you want to take everyone's guns away. Well, that's a false choice. And we have to reject that. We have to understand that is it not reasonable and a sign of a just society that we might want to know before someone can buy a lethal weapon whether they've been convicted of a violent offense. We just might want to know that. Is that not reasonable? Is it not reasonable to say we just might want to know before someone can purchase a lethal weapon that they have been found by a court to be dangerously mentally ill? Isn't that just reasonable? Isn't it reasonable to say, like we have done in California, that we need to have universal background checks for the entire country? Isn't it reasonable to say that weapons of war, assault weapons, should not be readily available in the neighborhoods and the communities and the streets? Right? Isn't it not reasonable to say that? Dianne Feinstein, California senator, was one of the champions to initially fight for and see passage of the assault weapons ban. But unfortunately, it had a shelf life. It has since expired. We must renew that. And let's think about this. I do think of this, Mark, as a career prosecutor. My entire life has been devoted to focusing on what is in the best interest of keeping us safe and ensuring that people who do us harm receive swift and severe accountability and consequence. So on this issue of assault weapons, I have seen assault weapons kill babies and police officers. I have friends who love to hunt. If you need an assault weapon to go hunting, you need to go back to hunting school. It's just not reasonable. We need to renew the assault weapons ban in this country. And we need to have people who hold these positions of leadership, who have the courage like the people that we have with us today. And for all of them who lack the courage, I say, look to your heroes and be inspired. Let's do the right thing on this issue. I thank you both so very much.